Welcome. I'm Harmony Slater, your host of the Finding Harmony podcast. Over the past 20 years, I've taught thousands of yoga teachers and students to explore the intersection between ancient wisdom and modern everyday life, using mind-body practices to heal, awaken, and manifest their dreams from the inside out. This podcast is a sanctuary for those feeling overwhelmed by life's challenges. Are you ready to jump in and discover how these challenges aren't actually in the way, but are the way to finding harmony? Let's invite the magic back in. Hello, I'm so happy you're here today. We have just a beautiful conversation for you. So, I love the science-backed woo. I love the mystical, spiritual side of life. I also love understanding why it works and how it works in our body and real strategies that we can do, practical strategies that we can do to feel fulfilled, to really feel connected to something greater than ourselves, to enhance our quality of life and our sense of success and well-being and self-worth, so that we can really tap into our true creative potential and all of the possibilities that are within us and bring them into the world and bring them into life. And today I am talking to my dear friend, Anita, who is also a soul strategist and success coach. And she is an amazing human being of Indian descent growing up in Toronto. We are going to talk about her experience growing up and how it led her on the journey to become who she is today, how she combines spirituality, science, and strategy to make that sweet spot that she calls soulful success. And so I think you're going to love this conversation. We are geeking out on all of these aspects: science, spirituality, actionable steps, and personal self-development, and giving you some real things that you can do to develop high-performance habits and really live your best, most fulfilling life. We are going to pull a tarot card and just see where this conversation goes. So I cannot wait for you to find out. It might be a little bit surprising. So let's jump in. Hi, welcome to the Finding Harmony podcast. I'm so happy you are here today because my guest is a soul strategist and success coach, Anita. How do I say your last name?
Rombough.
Rombough. Easy. I was like, I don't think I'm going to pronounce that correctly, but
Everyone always butchers it, but
yeah,
it's easy peasy.
It's super easy. How are you doing, Anita?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Oh, I'm so pleased. So before we get started, one of the specialties, one of your offerings that you do is tarot readings for people.
That is right.
So I thought it would be fun if we pulled a tarot card. I don't know. What kind of question could we ask, or how should we do it? You guide me.
Oh, goodness. Well, since there's so many listeners out there, maybe we could do an oracle and a tarot, and it could just be what is in our highest and best good for us to know right now. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I love it.
Okay. And coincidentally, I happen to always have decks nearby, and they're beautifully smudged and cleared. So let's just get into it. I just dropped one, so I'm going to pick it up. What's in our highest and best good right now for the Finding Harmony podcast listeners?
Yes. What do they need to know? The highest and best good for all.
Ooh, I like the card that we got.
Okay.
Co-create.
Ooh, really? Oh, that's a good one.
I'll hold it up. Yeah, it's beautiful.
It is beautiful. What deck is that? a gorgeous one.
It is The Wisdom of the Oracle by Colette
Oh, the
Baron Reed.
wisdom of the oracle. Okay, I've seen that
Yeah.
one.
And now here is our tarot card.
Okay.
What do we need to know? Highest and best. Honey, honey. Ooh, the star.
Ooh, the star.
The star. So the star
Beautiful.
is a major arcana card.
Mhm.
It has multiple meanings, but if we're going to kind of bring the two of them together, I think it's what is it that you wish to co create? So, star is about hope, wishing upon a star. It could also be healing. And then when we're talking about co creating, it's really bringing things into existence, which is so resonant with this whole April new moon
Yeah.
energy, which we're just about to embark on, right? And the first
Yeah.
new moon of the astrological new year with a total solar eclipse, it almost looks like a fireball to me.
Yeah, totally. It
So,
definitely
yeah,
looks
what
like
is
a
it that we want to
fireball.
bring into the world, my friends?
I
Let's make it
love it.
happen. Let's co
Both
create
those
with the
cards look
universe.
super magical to me.
They're my favorite decks.
Yeah. And if people are listening, they'll have to just go over to YouTube to see them.
Absolutely. Or,
What
yeah,
deck is your
just
tarot
DM me
card deck?
the deck. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. I have so many decks. Oh, the Light Seers Tarot.
The Light Seers Tarot. Okay. I know. We'll
Yes.
take a photo and we'll post it when the episode
Sure.
comes out.
Sure. Absolutely. I'll
Okay.
send I'll send you a picture right after this.
Awesome. All right. So we're ready. We're co-creating and bringing hope and new things into our dimensions. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Bringing all
Well,
those things we're wishing upon.
all the things, all the wishes are
All the
coming
things.
true.
Make them happen. Call it in. Call it in.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, tell everyone listening because not everybody knows you. And so, I mean, a soul strategist and success coach sounds maybe like a little bit woo woo, but you actually are very grounded and have a master's of business degree, right? An MBA.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you were also a psychologist and occupational therapist for a while.
I was an occupational therapist. I also have an undergrad in psychology as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I
Yeah.
mean, you're very, as far as like woo woo goes, I would say you're kind of like pretty grounded for for someone who also is tapping into higher consciousness and, other energies. So, how did you end up on the path that you're on?
Oh goodness. Well, I think that's like a really interesting and wow, way to like get right into it.
You're like,
Well, to your point,
I was born.
let me see. Well, to your point, the title sounds interesting, right? Soul strategist and success coach. That was intentional. I don't know anyone else with that title. The reason why I did that was because I think it really brings together all sides of me, the Eastern world and the Western world.
Hmm.
And that's really kind of my origin story too. Like if we're
Yeah.
going to go way back in time, I always felt like I was born in the Western world, but
Hmm.
I have Eastern Indian ancestry. And so I always felt like my whole life I was straddling two different worlds and didn't really know where I belonged. Like I just felt really awkward with it all. I think I wasn't really fully embodying all of me because of that. I was either one or the other. And depending on how you knew me, that would be what you would see.
Right.
And so, not necessarily the most ideal way to go about doing life, but I kind of got really skilled at siloing things and compartmentalizing and making sure my worlds didn't collide.
Hmm.
But in one world, like the Western world, my name is Anita. I speak English outside the home. I was bullied relentlessly for being Indian, right? So that was really trying to be as Western as possible. My parents came from very humble beginnings, being immigrants, and so it was really like that was my fu fuel. Like I gotta make it in this world. I gotta like make them proud. I gotta do all the things, and so that was really just kind of what drove me. And then you mentioned I've got all these degrees, and all these things. And so I kind of did what I felt like I was supposed to do to make their dreams come true, or to excel in this Western world. And I love learning. So it wasn't hard to be a lifelong learner. I still am always learning. I was deeply curious, but that led me to, as you mentioned, a background in psychology, where I really absolutely love geeking out on mindset and the power of our thoughts and how they shape our behaviors and actions. As a therapist, as an OT, I worked for over a decade with individuals, both one on one, also in group settings, helping them uncover what was most meaningful and purposeful to them, and helping them like see results.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those people also had neurological issues. And
Yeah.
so it was fantastic because it was like kind of like a case study for all the neuroplasticity work that I had
Mm.
learned. So it was really great because it got me applying kind of mindset principles that I was so passionate about with the coaching stuff. And then about a decade later, I just decided to do a pivot because that's just what I do on a whim. Just follow my gut. And my gut was kind of saying, you need some change. And I did my MBA, and that spoke to my love of strategy and data. And so, by all definitions, I was living that Western world of success. Right.
Yeah.
Was a Dean's Honors List, class president, you name it, moving upwards in the corporate career, should have been really, really happy. But I did feel like something was missing. And I wasn't really sure what it was. And I was always looking for what's next. That could just be part of my curious nature, like,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just different. And then when you contrast that to that other side, that other world that I was straddling, the Western world, the woo woo world,
Yeah.
sorry, the Eastern world. I was always very spiritual and intuitive. I taught myself to meditate when I was 7 years old. I was probably reciting Sanskrit mantras when I was 4.
Wow.
I've been reading tarot and oracle cards and communicating with my angels for over 20 years. But that's not stuff you talk about at the water cooler. That's not, it wasn't mainstream back then.
No.
You just didn't do it, and I ashram hopped and I learned from highly ascended masters and gurus. And so, there was just this whole other parallel world that I was living in. And again, you know, just kind of oscillating between the two, and
Mm-hmm.
rather seamlessly, I might add. And it
Yeah.
was only when like this life event happened that I intuitively felt was coming. But and it involved kind of me starting all over again, having this opportunity to chart my own path again. Did I figure out that maybe it's time to embrace all of me and embody all of me? And in retrospect, looking at all of those things, all the different pieces of education, the hard pivots that I thought, oh, did I just waste my time doing therapy when now I'm a healthcare leader leading large teams? No, they all led to this evolution of me now as a soul strategist and success coach, where I get to bring out the best in people and unlock their best world through the integration and embodiment of science, strategy, and spirituality.
Yeah. Wow. That
That
is
was a really long answer. Sorry.
no, it's amazing. I have a couple of questions. What part
Yeah.
of India did your parents come from?
Yeah. So my parents are from the north.
Hmm.
So my dad was actually born in Pakistan, and then
Yeah.
ended up leaving and coming to going,
Yeah.
being raised in Chandigarh and
Yeah.
Amritsar. And so, like, near the Punjab area.
Yeah.
And my mother was in a tiny little village in India, close to Delhi, I would say.
Ah, amazing. I was in Amritsar
Yeah.
like years ago. We went to the Golden Temple. So beautiful.
Cool.
Yeah. And have you traveled to India like frequently or?
I wouldn't say frequently,
Yeah.
but the last time I traveled was in advance of my wedding, and so
Yeah.
it was a really beautiful trip. Me and my mom went, and we did all of the wedding shopping there. And
Oh,
so
amazing.
my husband is actually Canadian, so
Yeah.
I, bought stuff for him and his family, and came home with like epic suitcases full of beautiful stuff, but also, got to bond with our family, and we did a lot of
Nice.
traveling as well. So it was just,
Yeah.
I find it so, I don't know how to explain it. I feel like I'm home when I'm there. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we're
It's
gearing up for
funny.
another trip soon.
It's funny how that's, I think there's something really special about that country. And I think if your heart is, I don't know, like if your heart is there, then it really does feel like home in all of its chaos and insanity. It's just like like every time I'm there, I was just there in February, and it was the first time I'd been back in about 7 years because of COVID, maybe five
Yeah.
years, 5 years, I think. Um, yeah. But it was like, yeah, it was like coming home to myself, in a
Yeah,
very
totally.
different kind of way than is accessible in any other place or country. I don't know. There's something really special that's happening there.
It unlocks something in you. I wonder if it's
Yeah.
like on a ley line or something, but there's definitely
I
some
don't
special
know.
energy there for sure.
Yeah, yeah, like I don't know, it's like really tapped into maybe it's part of me thinks it's maybe all the consciousness that like everything's like really about God and focused on God, and even when it's not, it's like still about God, and like all the shops are named after deities and gods and goddesses, and I don't know, I feel like there's just a lot of cosmic energy or like otherworldly energy being concentrated into that area of the world because the people are so also tapped in and tuned in to that area of the world,
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know? Yeah. So how do you help people like access this? Because I mean, these are all innate abilities that we have to like tune into intuition or to, you know, I don't know, connect to this higher consciousness or to this energy that's beyond just our bodies. And so, how do you help people kind of, if they're interested, like come into a place or a space within themselves where they would be open to, not even be open? I mean, obviously, if they're coming to you, they're probably already open, but like where they would know that they're accessing this higher intuition.
Yeah, I think it comes down to a couple of things. So one is there's a lot of tools, as you know, right? Like
Yeah,
from one
so
spiritual
many.
seeker to another, there's so many tools. And so it's about finding those tools that resonate and work for you. So my job, and you're right, most of the people that do come to me have that spiritual curiosity to them, right? They might
Hmm.
a lot of them are like, still very much embodying, and we live in the Western world. So we
Hmm.
have to embody that Western world. We're all part of that, but it's how do you integrate those other levels of you? There's more of an insatiable curiosity, I would say, when it comes to self-discovery. And I think also the pandemic was very helpful in unlocking in people the fact that there was a bigger, deeper meaning behind life. Like it wasn't just about getting a paycheck or just the superficial things that we do, the relationships that we have, all that kind of stuff. So, people are looking for a deeper connection to themselves. And it's really, again, I think it comes down to creating success in whatever way they define it. So, that's what a lot of the work that I do is, when I shared with you my story, I did a lot of the things and I'm incredibly proud of them. And I'm happy that they all led me to this place where I feel like I've experienced this thing called soulful success. And that's what I help unlock in other people as a soul strategist and success coach. And to me, it looks very different with between every single one of us. There's no like,
Hmm.
this is the path forward. Thou shall do this if you climb the ladder like this and by this time. And it's not like that. And it's about to like make it really last, to that's the integration of the science, which is the mindset piece and the strategy with the spirituality, that deep connection to ourself and that deep alignment to ourself. And I really feel like when we achieve that, that's when we can experience personal fulfillment and impact and financial prosperity. So it's kind of marrying the best of all of those worlds, which is why I say I, you know, I take the best from the Eastern world and the Western world to create your best world because I really do feel like
I love
that's
that.
that's what happens, and it's available
Yeah.
for every single one of us. And I feel like we all deserve it and are worthy of it. Sometimes we just need a little bit of help in like unlocking that for ourselves, and that's my role.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like that it looks different for everyone too, and that there's something, I mean, it's, I think it's always, life's like a path unfolding in some ways, right? And like you say, there's everything on our path is used towards our personal growth and development and also our spiritual evolution. At least that's what I believe, that
Yeah,
there's nothing that hasn't been put in our path or as an obstacle on our path to, that isn't there to help us grow or evolve. And for me, it's always like personally and spiritually are kind of the same thing, as well as in our career. I mean, they all kind of are like, you can't grow in one area without growing in the other area. And if you do, and maybe this is some of the people you're helping, like maybe they've achieved great success in their careers but feel really disconnected internally to their spirit or to themselves. And
Yeah.
is that kind of how you're helping them, like, connect more
Yes,
deeply
that's
to
precisely
purpose?
it. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, again, I tend to attract those spiritual seekers. However, you'd be surprised how many very logical people come up to me because, again, I have a very logical track record as well, right? So I'm kind of like, I say I'm not your neighbor's life coach. Because I bring a lot of different things to the equation. And so I meet people where they're at. Some people are perfectly happy not dipping their toes into that woo-woo-ness that
Yeah.
it's just too much for them. And you know what? To each their own. Like if that's not your definition of success, if you're perfectly happy with this definition and you want to stay within this realm, we'll do that. But if you're looking to experience something that feels a little bit more soulful, that like, you're doing life because we're all doing life. That's why we're here, right? We're spiritual beings having a human experience, but you want to feel that soulfulness, you want to feel that connection, you want to feel that fulfillment, then I help people really get clear about what that looks like for them and bring that out into their life too. And as I was saying, like there's so many different tools. There's journaling, there's breath work, there's meditation, there's Reiki, there's tarot. There's so many different tools that we can do to tap into that self discovery. But it's just it depends also where you are in your spiritual journey. Some people are very well versed in these things, and other people are just curious and they just have so many questions. And so it just every coaching experience is also very unique because again I meet people where they're at and where they're interested in going, more importantly.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And you also wrote a best-selling book. I think it's called The Lighthouse Project, right?
That's right.
Okay, well,
Yes.
tell me a little bit about what is in this book. Is it stories of many people? Is it an anthology? What's going on here?
Yes, it's a beautiful book. I might be biased, but it is a bestseller, so I guess other people think so too. But it came out last fall. It was my first book. I'm currently working on book number two, and I have another
Oh,
creative
cool.
project that I'll tell you about later that I think you're gonna love. But it is a collective coming home. So it's a co-authored project with about 14 or 15 other authors.
Mhm.
uh, we didn't know each other before this.
Wow.
And we're all just sharing our stories of coming home to ourselves. So it's that self discovery journey. And for me, a lot of it is some of the story that I shared with you in terms of, I alluded to that life event that allowed me to kind of rechart my course. So I talk about that and that evolution of understanding how all of these little pieces in my life really
Mhm.
fit to unlock my mission and my purpose, and how I use that as an accelerant for my own self discovery journey and spiritual growth, but also to help other people as well.
Is it gonna ruin the story if you tell us a bit about the life event that changed your course?
It would. So I'm going to just say if you want to know more,
Yeah.
check out the book. Shameless plug
Yeah.
www.anitarombough.com/book.
Beautiful.
And then there you go.
Cool. And is everybody's story in that book like a transformational story? Is that sort of the theme?
Yeah, and everybody has different stories, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
I love about this book is, first of all, everyone has a chapter. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. So you can sample 14 or 15 different people's experiences, and you can go cover to cover, or you can go, chapter by chapter, but they all look so different. And that's why I love this book is that you can find yourself for sure in any, I think, I saw myself in every single story,
Yeah.
but if that's not you, then you'll definitely find yourself in some of these stories. So there's definitely something there that will resonate with everyone out there. So
Amazing. That's so beautiful. And tell me a little bit about your practice. Like, what do you do personally to help stay on track to, because you're a busy person. You still have a podcast, you do coaching, you help successful high achievers like connect with their soul to create more success in their life or their business, obviously. But you also have a full-time job as well, don't you?
Yes, I do. And two young kids.
Right, and a family and two
And I'm
young
writing a second
kids.
book
And you're writing a second book, right?
and
So
another book and another creative project. Yeah.
I know. So I'm
That's
always
crazy.
talking to
That's
these
crazy
like
bananas.
these super like high achieving creative women. and and I think, it's always a really interesting question. Like, how do you take care of yourself? What are your own types of practices or things that you've found really help to keep you, I don't know, feeling connected? I mean, I think that's the thing, is when sometimes we're neglecting ourselves, we start to get the signs of burnout, and we feel like not connected anymore to that creativity. And
Mhm.
as a creative, it's really important, or even to like tap into your intuition, it's really important that you're in that space where you're feeling
Absolutely.
connected. Right? I mean, and even as a mother,
Absolutely.
you want to parent from that
Yeah.
space where you're feeling connected. So what do you do to make sure you're like aligned?
Sure. So the reason why I do all of these things, first and foremost, is because that is my definition of soulful success.
Mhm.
And so that I feel is like where I'm at my highest and my best. And that's when I can vibrate at that level, then I think that I can serve with that same energy to help other people, but also to advance those projects, et cetera, et cetera. But I think there's like three things that I think are extremely essential and necessary if you want to embody soulful success. And those are authenticity, alignment, and then abundance. And
Mm.
so those, I touched on authenticity, how my whole origin story was like, I didn't feel like I was one or the other, but I wasn't all, right? I didn't
Mhm.
feel like, even when it came to doing life for success, that I could be all. It was either do the external thing or be at peace. But hey, did you
Yeah.
know that like you could be outwardly successful and incredibly fulfilled and peaceful on the inside? Like, did you know that was a thing? Like, I don't know. We don't glamorize that, right? Like so for me, I think it's really important to stay in alignment with myself, with my vision, and this is also where that soul strategist and success piece comes, the East West, right?
Yeah.
I'm a ninja when it comes to time management and productivity principles. And I love all that kind of stuff and focus stuff and, the mindset piece. But then I'm also like the Zen master who loves to meditate and like stays
Yeah.
grounded and, nature's your outlet. So I think it's like integrating all of those aspects, both not only with my coaching practice, but I got to
Mhm.
walk the walk, especially if I'm doing all the things, right?
Yeah.
So what do I feel called to do? Like what I
Mhm.
feel aligned to do? What feels integral to, what am I in integrity with in terms of my values and my goals and my visions?
Yeah.
And just adopting, an abundance mindset. But really, I think if we want to, we can go through those three pillars.
Yeah.
I think they're super key. So happy to do
Definitely.
so. But
Let's do it.
yeah, so I do all of that. And I think really, I don't know, where do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think that maybe this is the thing. Let's talk a little bit about first, let's just go in order, like authenticity. If someone's
Sure, sure.
not like sure, I mean, I think you have to really know yourself in order to be authentic.
Yes. And so that's usually where I start
Yeah.
with people is know thyself. Like what is
Yeah.
your definition? What is your vision? What is my vision, right? And every single day could look differently. Like on a
Mhm.
weekend, or during like a hockey game for my children, that it might be showing being all in for that, right? But if I'm like creating space to do a creative project, maybe that's the focus, right? So what is the focus? And I would say with authenticity, it's like the definition we talked about it as being true to yourself, right? So if you aren't living in a way that's true to you, like your highest and vision and your dream for yourself, and you won't achieve soulful success, right? You'll be doing what I did before, right, in my life, where you won't feel happy or fulfilled, or maybe you'll have those external markings of happiness or
Mhm.
of success, but there's going to be something where you're feeling like your life is in service of what you others want you to do or what you think you should be doing
Yeah.
versus what would really light you up, right? And so when you're doing that, I think people run into the feelings of feeling lost or stuck or disconnected. We talked about that earlier, right?
Mhm.
And so I would just say that the reason why I think alignment is so, or authenticity is so important is that, like, you are here, Harmony, to be a shell of who you are, right? Or to not be
Mhm.
you at all. Like, I really do firmly believe that we're all here for a reason. And if that's the case, then that reason is to embody you, all of you, right?
Yeah.
Like, be unapologetically you, take all that space, right? And so when I was compartmentalizing my life, like that part, I think I've already alluded to it, like came from this deep rooted belief somewhere that you could either just do it this way or you could be like this. You couldn't be all of you, you know?
Yeah.
And it was only when I was able to unleash that and experience that personal transformation for myself that comes from,
Yeah.
okay, this is me. This is all of me. This is what I want. This is what's going to make me happy. That's when, that's where authenticity comes. And that's where soulful success comes, right? Is
Mhm.
where you feel personally fulfilled, right? Because we said personal fulfillment, impact, financial prosperity. That is my definition of soulful success.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. That's amazing. And I think as women, we particularly struggle with this sometimes because, we're always kind of comparing ourselves to other people. And especially like as moms, too, there's a lot of like kind of shit
yeah,
on each other all the time and put a lot of pressure on each
all the
other to
time.
show up and be certain things in certain ways. I mean, I think this is what like the whole Barbie movie was about, right? Is
Yeah.
that, as women, we kind of are taking on so many of these shoulds, like, oh, I should be spending more time with my kids. I should be, making the dinner and keeping a clean house. Oh, I should also be like a successful CEO or, doctor or whatever, right? Like we kind of take
Yeah.
on so much, and at the end of the day that might not even be like, none of that might be what we actually are authentically like aligned with, or who we actually want to be in the world, or how we want to show up. And so much of that work I feel must be about learning to really listen and understand yourself without listening to the voices of our culture or our ancestors in some ways too, right? Like our
Yeah.
history, our relatives, our friends. Like there's just so many, I don't know, for some reason women like to tell each other how to be and what to do more than men do.
So true, actually. And I feel like a lot of people don't even stop and question. Maybe up until recently, like I think the pandemic changed things. We're
Yeah.
scratching the surface, wanting to go deeper. But for many of us, this has just been an autopilot. What do you mean we don't do this? What do you mean? Like I have a choice? Like, what do you mean? I can say no. Um, you
Yeah.
know, I don't have to bake these cookies from scratch and do like 20,
Right.
like God knows, right? But it's
Yeah.
just part of it is giving yourself permission, but also part of it is the pause, right? Like giving
Mm-hmm.
yourself the permission to even pause and think about,
Yeah.
do I really want to do this? Is
Yeah.
this something that like feels good to me right now that I like put a lot of pride and stock into that I really care about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's so important is really, yeah, stopping and questioning like, A, do I have the bandwidth to do this? B, is this something I even really want to do? C, like, how is this like further my soulful success or something, like how is this
Yeah.
helping me, attain my soul's purpose in life, or like my
Yes.
own my own joy even, or
Yeah.
satisfaction.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So then that seems to naturally lead into alignment.
Yes, it does. Wonderful segue, Harmony. So
Thank you.
skillfully done. Okay, so yeah, so alignment, like for me, anyways, alignment has like many different kind of applications, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
apply it in different ways, but at the highest level, I would say alignment with God, universe, source energy, whatever you want to call it. But there is, you know, if you are a spiritual being or a spiritual seeker, and again, we're all in different parts of the journey and there's no judgment, there's no better or worse, whatever, we
Mm-hmm.
just are. But if there's an understanding that you're part of a bigger thing, then there's like the alignment with that bigger
Yeah.
thing, whatever you want to call it. And then, of course, we talked about alignment to ourselves, right? In
Yeah.
terms, and that's authenticity, right? So, are we being true to ourselves? Are we being true to our values? So, living in integrity and just knowing who you are, what you value, and then also then there's this could tie into the first like but alignment to energy. So again, if you think of
Mm,
source energy, it could be the same thing, but what feels good to you, right? And we talked about this a little bit earlier too. So it's just a natural segue. So that's what I think of as alignment, and it
mhm,
is very much linked to authenticity. And then the last thing that I said was abundance. And when I think of abundance, I think of like, hey, when you're occupying that your whole self, like you are showing up, you're not living in the energy of smallness, right? Like
yeah.
you're just not going to settle for like meh, life's okay, it's so, you're not going to settle for pennies in your bank account. You're like, when you are expanded in that energy of growth and
Mhm,
expansion, then you continue to attract all those things at that same space, like, or energetic level, right? And
mhm.
so that's the law of attraction, right? And
Yeah.
so I just think that like when you're picturing like when you're operating from that highest level, that badassiest, if I can say, boldest version of yourself, right? You're not going to play small. You're
Yeah.
not going to play small. And so if you're going to show up and be big and be authentically you and be in alignment to who you are, you're not going to be willing to settle. You're not, you know what you're capable of, you know what you want, and it's just not going to be aligned to your beliefs or your energy. Like it's just a general mismatch, and that's when you attract in growth and expansion in all those areas. You can't just be grandiose in your one area, small
Yeah.
potatoes in the other. Like it all just aligns, right, so magically. So then you're welcoming in abundance in all these areas. So whether it be relationships, love, joy, peace, rest, harmony, like all of the things, right?
Mhm.
So that is the place where you want to be. So it's really important that you have that abundance and alignment locked in, and then that, sorry, the authenticity and abundance,
Mm.
God, authenticity and alignment, but you know what I mean, right?
Locked
Locked
in
in,
to
and
create
then
abundance.
that you got it. Thank you. Thank you. I just get so excited about this. So it really depends on like what you define as successful, right? So for
Yeah.
me, having experienced both versions of success in my life, like
Mhm.
the Western derived toxic productivity, hustle culture, go go go, there's always something, chasing a carrot,
Yeah.
just figuring out like what's the next carrot to chase, and just feeling tired and run down and burnt out, and just I have all these great things on the outside, but why don't I feel great?
Mm.
Or finding something that just feels like, hey, this actually feels good, and I am just as equally as successful. Like, yes, I can have it all. It depends what definition you resonate with, but
Mhm.
abundance would have a very different meaning for both, right? So one would be probably more material, and
Mhm.
the other one will be a little bit more richer in its connotation, like literally, because it's more well-rounded, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. I think that's interesting too. This idea of sort of we get what we create, right? So
Oh, wait a second. Co-create. Let's
we've
wish on that star and co-create,
yeah,
right?
we've come back around.
Full
But
circle moment. That's beautiful.
yeah, that like yeah, that what we want or what we're create yeah, what's meant for us in a way. I mean, and I say meant in the way that like it's kind of also karmic or scientific in that what we're focusing on, whether it's through our energy, through our thoughts, through our actions, through our studies, through our work, I mean, it's going to bear fruit, right? It's not, I mean, that's kind of where the mystic meets the science in a sense, because of course,
Yeah.
if you work on something long enough, you're going to be successful, right? But if you don't
Yes.
actually stop and think about, is this really what I want? Do I really want this type of success, or do I really want this thing? Then you might end up getting something that you actually didn't really want, but you're just working without thinking about the results in a way or the outcome of that. Yeah?
I think it also speaks to a difference in approach, right?
Mm.
So, um, the world that we live in is very much success is defined from the outside,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the paycheck, it's the job title. Like you and
Mm-hmm.
I talk, we meet for the first time, probably oh, so what do you do? That always
Right.
comes up. It's just
Yeah.
one of those kind of pet peeve questions I have. Because does it matter? Like for this, little run in that we have, does it change anything? But you know what? It is everything for people. They form
Yeah.
instant impressions of you. But we're like, what car do they drive? What, like, there's all these things, right? And
Mm.
that's dangerous because when somebody else is defining your ability to be, if you're successful or not,
Hmm.
or giving you permission to feel happy because of what you've achieved, like they're telling you that you're appropriate for a job or not, what
Right.
that job title is called, how much that job is allowed to make. Nope, can't give you a penny over that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like we're chasing something externally outside of us and we're never going to
Hmm.
catch it. We're never going to get it.
Yeah.
The other approach is more internally driven. So it's an
Hmm.
inside out approach, right? It's doing
Yeah.
that deep work. And when we do that deep work, it trickles out into the outside. So you're going to get all the same things that you would the other way,
Hmm.
but you can't go outside in, or maybe you are outside and
Yeah.
then you go inside because you realize that disconnect. And then from there, it's an inside out approach. Like then you kind of,
Yeah.
at some point in your life, there might be that pivotal turning moment
Yeah.
for you.
I love that. We talked about that when I was on your podcast, the
That's
Anita
right.
Chat
That's right.
podcast.
This
We
is
were
why we
talking.
resonate so much, right? I was like, we got to keep talking.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And I mean, I think it's really interesting too, because I think part of, I mean, and I'm sure it's part of what you do, it's part of what I do, but it's like also clearing some of the unconscious blocks because those unconscious obstacles or the upper limits that we have that we set for ourselves actually kind of show up in our reality. We start to project those outwards and in some way. And we might not even be conscious that it's because we're projecting them outwards that they're showing up, right? So learning to clear some of those things, which again,
Absolutely.
yeah, is both like the science and it is kind of mystical how it happens.
Yeah. And so it's one of those things that I love geeking out over. I know you do too, because we've had
Yeah.
so many great conversations about this. But that's where I have all these different frameworks that I've developed
Mhm.
that support the mindset reframing, right? And with that, working with people with neurological or brain issues, just seeing
Yeah.
how the brain can rewire and reframe. So I kind of approach it from a scientific perspective because I like that stuff, but I'm also doing the energy work. And
Yeah.
so, I love doing it from both different angles, but you're absolutely right. Like success is, what was there's some statistic, 80% mindset, 20% strategy, right?
Yeah.
And so if we're talking about soulful success, then, mindset plays a huge role in it. So whether you're doing it from more of a spiritual basis or a
Mhm.
scientific basis or a combination thereof, like it's absolutely critical to clear that energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that quote, that I don't know who said it, but whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. But like we also
Yeah.
can't just like pretend that we think we can. You actually have to believe it. And so to actually believe it, you have to sit with and get real with all the reasons why you think you can't. Right? And so you have to actually go into
Yeah.
that shadow side, into that dark side of yourself too and be with it and look at it and then see, do the work around it
Yeah.
to, like you're saying, reframe those
Yeah.
self doubts or those limitations that we believe to be true in order to clear them so that we can actually believe that we can do something, right?
Yeah, and it's so true. And you know, before we got onto this podcast, I was just saying to you in passing, one of my goals, right, was to be more visible.
Yeah.
And literally for Q2, that is a goal that I have. And I was sat down, I did exactly what you said, just wrote all the reasons why this is not working for me right now. What are the blocks? And a lot of it came from that first story that I told you, where I felt like it wasn't safe to be me, right? Like I had
Yeah.
compartmentalized and siloed everything. It was like, thou shall not be seen, right? I
Yeah.
was bullied relentlessly for my skin color. I was called really horrible names. Back then, spirituality, meditation, that stuff wasn't fashion forward, right? Like that would just be
Yeah.
another like thing,
Yeah.
another reason to be targeted, right? Not to mention like intuitives.
Yeah.
They have not always, like witches
No.
or what,
Yeah.
like they're not always readily accepted in our culture, right? So
Still
there's
not.
so many reasons, so many psychological reasons why, yeah, right. There's so many psychological reasons why, oh my God, of course fear is in the way. Of course,
Yeah.
right? We're all human. We're all on this path. We all have those, whatever it is for you, you've got a
Hmm.
ton of blocks too. Like, and it's about getting clear with what they
Yeah.
are. And then again, I can't walk the walk. I can't talk the talk if I can't walk the walk. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm a work in progress just like everybody else, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. You're speaking also to the importance of like it's a journey. Like life is a journey. Clearing our own bullshit is a
Yeah.
journey.
And it comes up in different ways, right? So like again, I thought it was been there, done that. That was like so like
Yeah.
35 years ago or 40 years
Yeah.
ago, right? But here we are in a new journey as an
Hmm.
entrepreneur and it shows up in a whole entirely different way because it's a new
Yeah.
thing, new journey, right?
Yeah.
Newish. And you'll be like, "Oh, where's this coming from? Like I thought we were done it." But no, it's just manifesting again because there's like some core wound that still,
Yeah.
just is still there. There's remnants of it that you just need to
Yeah.
uproot.
Yeah,
So,
totally. I think there's definitely, yeah, those core stories, those core wounds that keep showing up, even though you know they're there and you've probably cleared them before, but you want to up level to that next stage in whatever journey or
yeah,
whatever, thing you're doing. As soon as you try to or attempt to stretch past your comfort zone, then it sparks up the fear, and it's often the same old fears, right? It's
yeah,
like, oh no, I'm
always.
not safe
Sometimes
again.
disguised.
Yeah,
For
exactly.
sure.
And so then it's so important to go back and like you say, just recognize. And I think this is where we get a lot of that, even kind of reparenting ourselves, right? And having
Yeah,
self-compassion and forgiveness and all of the things so that we can feel safe as we're expanding into that abundance.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's not easy.
Nope. And that's why I just love this work because again, even as a work in progress, I love doing this work on me, but I love
Hmm.
unlocking that transformation in other people
Yeah.
too. Sometimes it's easier to work with others than it is yourself, right? And that's why everyone needs a coach, every single one of us. And that's, we
Totally.
we share that common ground too.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, right? So
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. Especially coaches, because you gotta be in the work. You gotta be clearing your stuff. You can't, if you're teaching
Yeah,
others or leading others or coaching others to, be their best selves,
absolutely.
you have to always be working and doing your best to be
And
your
being one
best
step
version.
ahead too, I
Yeah.
would say, right? Because,
Yeah.
you've got to be where people want to go, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So tell everyone where they can come and find you and what your offers are. How can they work with you? I mean, I know they can
Sure.
come get a
So
tarot reading. I think lots of people come to you for that.
yes, they do. So yes, you can get a tarot reading from me. I would love to say that, we're talking about energy and an alignment and all that kind of stuff. So some of those tips and tricks, if I can just leave your
Hmm.
listeners with something to
Please.
support them in their soulful success journey. We talked
Yeah.
about this before is the awareness, right? The
Yeah.
awareness piece. So taking that permission to pause and using any kind of tool, whether it be meditation or breath work or journaling, to really get still and check in with yourself. The other one is energy.
Mm.
And I like to think of energy as our fuel tank or barometer of our alignment.
Yeah.
And so the best thing we can do for ourselves is to just check in and see, are we high vibe or low vibe? And not to say that we're never going to ever be low vibe ever again if we take this whole full success journey, but as long as the positive outweighs the negative, like your
Mm.
your fuel tank is leaning more towards full, you're on the right path. And I have a freebie that I would love to
Nice.
offer your
Yeah.
listeners. It's quick dopamine hits and spiritual lifts.
Ooh, I love it.
And it's literally like a quick guide, 10 easy ways to elevate your vibration instantly. You can use it when you're feeling kind of funky, unmotivated, unfocused, preventatively. Best part is it's free. Same thing with
Yay.
awareness stuff, right? Breathwork, meditation, journaling, all of it is free,
Yeah.
right? Shifting your energy is also free. So this guide has some really quick, easy ideas that can take seconds to implement and can really help you move in that direction again if you feel that you're falling short on
That's
the energy
awesome. I'm gonna
tank.
go download that right now.
Thanks.
I think it's like so good too, because again, it's also where science and spirituality come together, because sometimes we think, oh, it's just like about being high vibe, but there's actually something chemical going on in our body when we're feeling really high vibe and good, and when we can activate that chemical response in our brain or in our body, like giving ourselves dopamine
Absolutely.
hits, then yeah, of course our energy goes up, and our
Even that
mindset
guide
goes
marries
up,
the
and
best of the East and the West, right? Science,
yeah,
strategy, and spirituality. Boom. Dopamine hits,
yeah,
spiritual lift. So, yeah,
it's great.
definitely feel free to check that out. And you can follow me on Instagram at Anita Rombough, or my website is www.anitarombough.com.
Yeah, and you have a beautiful website, so everyone should go check it out.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I love it. Makes me want to update mine actually looking.
I love yours
I'm
too.
like, oh no, I need to go edit.
We were just talking also before we got on about all this like never ending, gotta do this improvements and work things that we could do to elevate our game as
I
entrepreneurs.
know.
It
I
just never
know.
ends. So we just gotta like close our eyes and just
That's right. You just gotta say it's good enough, and walk away. Another
yeah,
day when I have nothing else to do, I'll do
absolutely.
that other
Absolutely.
thing. I know. The life of an entrepreneur, even a spiritual entrepreneur. I know I coach a lot of yoga teachers or other coaches who are, wanting to do
Yeah.
more spiritual, they want a spiritual business, or a business like that's focused on,
Same.
yeah, mindfulness and yoga
We
or
have a type.
meditation. Exactly. And I'm always like, yeah, there's still a lot of work to do in this. You don't just get to practice yoga all day long.
Just breathe it out. Breathe it out. Keep that energy
Yeah.
high and
Yeah,
close your
yeah,
eyes.
yeah. And it's interesting too, because I think it is also a blending of the West and East in a way too, because you have to get really savvy with technology if you want to be an entrepreneur or have a lot of
Yeah.
money to hire out.
Yeah.
And then also tend to the spiritual side of yourself as well, and not try to find that nice dance between the two, rather than going all one direction or the other direction.
Yeah, I think a lot of entrepreneurs have that issue, right? They go into whatever line of work they go into because they're so passionate about it. It's all the heart, but then they realize the heart's just half of the equation. And then there's
Yeah.
like this other piece that they need to figure out. Well,
Yeah.
like they need to be like have some business sense. So that's actually what
Totally.
took me down my path from being a therapist to
Yeah.
doing an MBA was they taught me how to be a therapist. And I was a damn good therapist after 10 years, but nobody taught me how to manage my own books or start my own business. And
Right.
so when I opened my practice, I thought, uh-oh, what? I need to learn this stuff. And
Mm.
then I was like, okay, well, I'll just do my MBA. And so that's what I did. But yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's true. It's true. You know what? It's so funny. I feel like everything in life always comes back to the Wizard of Oz, right? Like, there's no place like home. We go on this like random journey through Oz to find that we were at home the whole place.
I have a
Was
quote
Yeah,
from Glinda on my desk.
amazing.
So
What does
it's
it
just weird
say?
that you said that. You've always had the power, my dear. You just had to learn it for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have like our scarecrow, who wants what does he want? He wants a heart? No, he wants a brain. The scarecrow
I don't
wants the
know. I don't remember.
brain,
Yeah, yeah. The
and
lion wants the heart.
the lion wants the courage, and the tin man wants
Oh,
the heart,
goodness.
right?
I need to watch that movie again.
And we need all of these things. We need our head, we need our heart, and then we need the courage put it out there in the world. So
Absolutely. That is beautiful. Did you just like come up with that? Because
it
that
was
is
just like
gold
a
right there.
download. And the fact that you have the Glenda quote on your desk, it all
Mic
just
drop.
manifested.
Yeah, totally. Totally. That was amazing.
Yeah, the power was in us all along. We didn't have to go anywhere.
Co-create. Bring it in. Bring it in.
Boom. I think we did it. I think it was a beautiful co-creation.
I think it's a wrap on this podcast. What do you think, Harmony?
I think so too. So I'll have all of your links in the show notes. People can go and download your beautiful dopamine hits for spiritual lifts and listen to our interview on your podcast on Anita Chats.
Yes. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for having me. This was so much fun. I
Thank
absolutely
you.
love you.
It's a pleasure. Wasn't that just the most interesting conversation? And did you know that this week it is my birthday week? It's also the first day of summer and International Yoga Day. So I would love it if you would want to help me in supporting Yoga Gives Back and giving back to the women and girls in India that we support through our 2 NGO organizations. This is just a beautiful gift that we can give back to India during the month of June for the global gathering that yoga creates and generates every year. And I would love it if you would support them through my personal fundraising page. It'd be a lovely little birthday gift, a way to celebrate the first day of summer as well as International Yoga Day. So head on over. The link is in the bio in the show notes, or send me a DM at Harmony Slater Official and I will respond and send you the link for my personal fundraising page. I'd love to hear from you and connect on social media. That's it. We've concluded another episode of the Finding Harmony podcast. I just want to thank you so much for doing the work that changes the world, starting with yourself. It truly does make a huge difference. Please make sure you have your automatic downloads turned on wherever you listen so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. I have so much more magic I can't wait to share with you. Lastly, if you're on Instagram, I love connecting and hearing from you. So come on over and say hello at Finding Harmony Podcast. And you can also come say hello to me personally at Harmony Slater Official. Thank you again for being here. I cannot wait to share more with you in our next episode.